Hello and welcome to the Philmont Trek Talk monthly live chat, where we do everything possible in our power to get all the right information in your hands so you have the absolute best Philmont trek possible, whether you're going in the summer or an autumn adventure or going to, is it winter adventure? Is that what they call it? Whatever they call the winter camp. There are a whole lot of options. We'll even touch on a brand new one that we just learned about yesterday. I believe I've got some behind the scenes information I'll share with you on that. But today we got a special show here. We've got a couple of our regulars you see down below, but we've also got some special guests. So why don't we go around and introduce everyone? Hi, I'm Jeff. I'll be your tour guide today. And I've done Philmont as a scout. I've gone multiple times as an adult, a few times as what I call a Philmont free agent. And I have a little bit of experience in the backcountry. And our first guest, Christine, has got a lot of experience getting people to the backcountry. So welcome to the program. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Christine with Leading the Way Tours. Yes, for 30 years, at least 30 years, I've been getting scouts to Philmont. I personally have been to base camp some 100,000 times or something. I don't know. I've lost count of about 30 years. I have never been on a trek because you trek while I'm working. So I would consider an autumn adventure maybe, but I've never been on a trek, never been really past base camp too much. And what we do is we get scouts to and from wherever they're from, airport, train station. We help them get to Philmont, whether that's just transportation or they want to do some sightseeing along the way, or they have any kind of special needs, emergency situations come up. We are here to help. Basically in the summer, we're 24/7 for scouts.
Excellent. And there's the site and the URL if you'd like to go check out everything that Christine and her crew offer. I highly recommend. I've been on the bus. It was a very nice trip. I appreciate the ride that I got at the end of this summer, actually.
Yep.
So definitely, I know if Sal were here, he would be cheerleading your praises as well.
I even got coffee in case Sal was here. See,
right. If you don't have Sal on the payroll,
my official chaos coordinator mug.
There you go. If you don't have Sal on the payroll as your director of marketing or something, you're missing an opportunity there. But
I pay him in coffee, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for being here, Christine. We're going to come back to her in a minute, and she will tell us all about. Isn't that funny? I just got a note from Sal. Sorry, still at a troop meeting. So he's paying attention. But anyhow, we'll come back to you to give us a lowdown on all the different transportation options, or at least a lot of them that we can talk about. And Nathan, if you could let us know a bit about yourself and why you're here.
Sure. So I'm Nathan. I'm with Rendezvous Adventure Outfitters. I did Philmont in '98. And as a scout, I did the whole Triple Crown because that was the only option at the time. We didn't have Summit. Spent a couple of years enjoying the backcountry around the world on Uncle Sam's dime, and really enjoyed backpacking and being out in the wilderness. But with the gear shop, I'm really hoping today to help share some lessons learned and knowledge out there about especially Christmas gifts, what you're looking for, what's right, and understanding what the different options are available for people.
Right. Excellent. All right. So you see the URL there. I copy and paste it out of the chat. Don't try to spell it yourself. Rendezvous. That got me the first 12 times I tried to type it, but I've eventually figured it out. So after we talk about transportation, we're going to come back to you, Nathan, to talk about gear for backpacking in Philmont and the gifting season and what to do and what not to do and all that good stuff. So we can go down to Rob real quick.
All right, Rob Smith. I'm from O'Fallon, Illinois, in the St. Louis area, in the Greater St. Louis Area Council, and I'm the purveyor of highadventurescouting.com and the high adventure coordinator for Troop 85 in O'Fallon.
I clicked the wrong thing. I was about to put the wrong website up there. That would have been a disaster. But I found it the last second. We got it up there, and there is the URL, highadventurescouting.com. You never know who you're going to run into at the Crew Advisors Lounge on
That's
Philmont.
right.
You know what? This is bugging me. I'm up here in the corner, and Mark is hidden behind there. We're going to switch. There we go. Now you get to see Mark, and I'll hide behind the banner. It was fortuitous running into you there years ago.
It was.
So,
It was. Yes.
yeah. Okay.
He was trying to steal my phone that was being charged before I came and got it. So
right.
I'm just kidding. No.
Right. So we changed the order. We'll go up this way now to Mark.
Okay. I'm Mark Schwer. I live in Iowa City, Iowa. It's beautiful here right now. And I was a 9-year staff member. And I'm a life member of the Philmont Staff Association. And I'm on the PSA Scholarship Committee. And as a matter of fact, right after Thanksgiving here, we'll be having Giving Tuesday. Myself and about a dozen PSA members are sponsoring what we call Power Hours, where you have an opportunity to give to the annual fund, which supports our scholarship funds that we give to staff every year, so that we can have a great staff every year at Philmont. And I've been to Philmont so many treks, I can't count them anymore. And I know a lot about Philmont.
Right. Okay, so I saw it up here somewhere. Where was it? Donate Giving Tuesday. That's what you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Here we go. So I'm
Right
going to
there.
drop this
It's
information.
really easy to get there.
Yeah. All right, we'll drop that URL out there in the discussion.
That's actually open right now. It will be open through the week after Thanksgiving, probably.
There we go. Hours.
They even got the.
Well, there's a lot going on here, and you've got the 7:00 hour. It looks like on December 3rd. Excellent. Well, appreciate you doing that.
I'd like to give my wife a little credit there too.
Yeah, that's probably a very strategically sound move. Well, I'm sure that has nothing to do with your reasoning.
No.
Okay. So, all right. Thanks everyone for the introductions. Really appreciate that. I'd like to remind everyone watching, if you're watching live, this is an interactive program. It's much better when you don't rely on us to entertain you and provide all the direction. Ask any questions you have. We are going to go into some targeted segments where we're talking about transportation and gear and gifting and that sort of thing. But try to keep the questions topical during those segments. But you can also seed us with other questions that we'll answer after. So if you have any other questions about where your crew is in the preparation cycle, what you should be doing next, how to solve some problems that you're having with your crew, feel free to post them. We may delay and get to them at the end of the program, but we certainly welcome everyone who's out there watching live to participate through the comments section. And if you're watching in replay, feel free to leave questions. And I probably don't know the answer, but I know people who know the answer, and we'll get those for you in those comments as well. Or you can ask them in the Philmont Trek Talk group on Facebook. Let's see. I wanted to show one other thing before we dive into transportation. So we're to open this up. Philmont has announced a new, we can't call it a trek. They call it an expedition. Let me see if I can make that a little bigger. And this is within the Philmont Trek Talk group, but you can also go find it on Philmont's official Facebook page. They're calling it Hut to Hut. And it's an expedition and not a trek because, well, they say it's a luxury trek, but the luxury part. So if you've been on a Philmont trek or you've been around people who've come off Philmont treks, you know that there's no luxury about being in the backcountry typically. Well, they figured out how to make that happen. It comes with a price tag. If you would like to not carry all your gear, but maybe just have a day pack with your essentials, and the rest of your gear gets kind of sherped by truck to the next cabin, so you don't have to sleep in a tent. You don't have to cook your food. They're going to have catered food for you, it appears. Then they have this new program available. it is. I don't know if they want me to tell people what it costs. No one told me not to. I got the brochure and it says $2,700 per person. And I don't recall what the time frame is, like how much time you're in the backcountry.
I think it's 4 nights.
Yeah.
5 days,
Backcountry,
4 nights.
night and base.
So this is it's
And that's
not
per
as
person.
economical as a regular trek, but it's very different. They are catering to you, is what it looks like to me. So I'm hoping that this is, somewhat of a fundraising thing for the ranch as well. That they're catering to people who have the financial means to go ahead and toss a little bit extra to get the experience that they wouldn't otherwise be able to get, and then kind of underwrite some costs for some other things that they need to do at the ranch, because there is a tremendous infrastructure there that does not support itself. So yeah, that's really interesting. If that's something interesting to you, then I'm going to drop I'm going to drop that whole line in the discussion here.
Jeff, that sounds like a very European expedition, like out in the Alps or Baltimore.
Doesn't it? Yeah. And, there was some discussion on this during the day today, and someone said, they went and did some looking around for other things in the region, like up across the border into Colorado and other places around where they have guided, catered, assisted adventures like this. And they said it's really a fairly competitive rate. Like, it's not, and I embrace the thrifty part of scouting. And to me, that number, I was like, oh, wow, my wife would love this. I saw the number and I said, but I'm not even going to tell her about it because this is not an option. But for people who it is an option, I think it's going to be a blast. So,
especially if they open it up to all adults. If you get 8-10 of your buddies that, as we get up in age, we're not ready for that 14, 21-day trek.
Yeah.
Did they include like the dates that would be available?
I saw something about that,
because I want to say that it's like in the shoulder, like at the end of the season, maybe.
I thought I saw August. I'm scrolling through my emails to see if I can find that. Maddie sent me the brochure. Oh, and I don't see it. Let me see here. Nope, not that one. This one. And if I move that to the other screen, I could actually show it to everyone. Although it'll be too small to read. Maybe we can make it bigger. There we go. August 9 through 13. And I don't want to misquote anything, but I thought I saw somewhere that this was kind of like a trial. And we'll see how it goes. And if it goes well, they'll add additional, they may have to tweak some things. I really don't want to try to give too much detail about it because I didn't even read this whole thing, so I don't want to give you any wrong information, but there is how you can find out. And with the email address and phone number and whatnot. So looks like a neat program. I like how they keep doing things that we would call non-traditional. For Philmont, they've not done that type of thing before, and it really expands the between that, some of the family camps and other options they have, especially through the PTC. There are a lot of options to get people who either don't want to or aren't able to do a traditional summer trek. You got a lot of options. And that reminds me, something we keep talking about, Mark and Rob know that we have a special moderator admin group for the Philmont Trek Talk group, a group chat where we're harassing each other and bouncing ideas off each other, mainly harassing each other on a daily basis. We're talking about Philmont in there every day. And something that I floated an idea, and I don't know if we're going to be able to pull this off or not. I'm going to talk to some people at Philmont, or maybe Mark probably knows more people than I do. Maybe you want to, maybe we can find someone else to kind of lead the charge here. of potentially setting up Philmont Trek Talk. I don't know if we want to call it sponsored, but kind of themed autumn adventure at some point, maybe for 25 or 26. Maybe we make it an annual thing. I don't know. So that's something, Nathan, that one, you don't have to haul the kids along with you. It's an adult trip. It's not as long, so you're not out of work as long. The backcountry's not overrun with young people, so that can be interesting. We'll have to see how that shakes out, if we're able to make that happen or not. But I'm optimistic that we'll be able to figure something out. I need to talk to him and see if there's anything that we need to know before we try to put that together as a Philmont Trek Talk kind of themed, we'll call it, event. All right. Oh, and one last thing. I just keep thinking of new things we got to talk about before Christine's like, is it me yet? And I'm not putting you off on purpose here. We did mention that the official Philmont Preparedness Seminar, the official discussion, is tomorrow at 6:30 Mountain Time. And you will find that by going to the Facebook group, our Facebook page for Philmont Scout Ranch. The official one, we're the unofficial one. Remember that, everyone. We take everything we say as we're doing our best, but we're not getting paid to do this. So you're getting exactly what you pay for here. All right. With that, anything else we need to talk about before we start talking about transportation? No? All right. All right, Christine, what words of wisdom do you have for
Words of wisdom. The number one thing I could tell you about Philmont transportation is know your dates. Many, many, many times, people that have not been to Philmont or have not done the organizational end of it don't understand the date structure. And if you, by the time they get to me and they fill out my form and I realize the dates don't match up, I'll say, this doesn't coincide with a Philmont trek. It could be too late. They've maybe already bought their train tickets or their airline tickets, and we all know those are not easy to change. So the number one thing people need to know is if you know your expedition number, and even if you're not the person who is the contact, you're someone else in the troop who's handling this, the number one thing you need to know is the expedition number. So your expedition 614, whatever the letter is, A, B, C, D, it doesn't matter. 614 means you need to be in Philmont base camp checking in before lunch on June 14th. From that date, and if you tell me you have a 7, 9, 12, or an 8-day cavalcade, I can tell you exactly what dates you need, and we can figure out what date you should come in, depending on how many days in advance you want to come ahead. So for instance, if you have to be at base camp by June 14th, 614 expedition, and you have a 7-day trek, you're going to depart on June 21st. A 9-day trek is going to leave on the 23rd. A 12-day trek is going to leave on the 26th. And if you have that 8-day cavalcade, you're going to leave on the 22nd. If you are absolutely not sure, if you're new at this, call someone, check in with Philmont, call someone, get in touch with somebody who's done it before, because the last thing you want to do is have to pay extra fees to change tickets, or find out that you have to spend 3 days before Philmont, which wasn't in your budget, or now you suddenly have days after Philmont, which when you really just want to go home and get in your own bed. There are several ways to arrive at base camp. You can leave home in your troop van or charter a bus from a local bus company and drive cross country. I'd really like to hope that only people doing that are maybe from Texas or Kansas, Colorado, maybe Iowa, something like that, someplace close where it's not more than a day, really a day's travel. You can take the train to Raton. And I say Raton because I highly don't recommend the train into Denver. Amtrak does go to Denver from Chicago or from someplace out in California. However, that train is notoriously late and very late. It is a second-class passenger train. So in other words, freight trains are number one. So you don't want to be stuck there. And we've had groups arrive 8, 10, 12 hours late. So Denver is not recommended for train travel. Raton seems to do a little better, although I will talk a little bit more about the pitfalls of train travel. You can fly into Denver, Colorado Springs, or Albuquerque. Now, you may look and see a bunch of other regional airports. Those are not for you at this time. You want to pick one of those 3 major airports. You can then rent vans and drive yourselves. Take a scheduled shuttle, which means you are sharing with other people and maybe have to wait around. And that also means you have to be in by a certain time. Make sure you get your baggage and can be waiting at the shuttle spot. Or you can do private or shared transportation with a charter bus company. Things to consider for each one of those modes. If you drive from home, you're taking a huge liability, okay? Huge liabilities. Driving from home was meant to be going to your local scout camp or a local amusement park, a local activity. It's really not meant driving cross country. There's a whole bunch of things you need to know. So look that up in your rules and regulations for scouting, because you're really not supposed to drive all the way from home if it's more than 250 miles, I think. You might have delays, you might have breakdowns, road issues, varying fuel prices across the country. Not to mention you will be exhausted when you arrive. You now have to trek. And then after you trek, even if you're only 5 days in the woods, you have to drive home. And if there's just 3 of those adults driving, that's going to be exhausting, right? So that's not highly recommended to drive yourself from home. I know some people think that's the least expensive, and we do want to be budget conscious. The train has had many issues. So more time, if you're going to do a 12-day trek, think of the dads that don't get all those days off. You need at least 2 days on the front end and 2 days on the back end for train travel. So a 12-day trek may not be what you can do because they may not get enough time off. There are a lot of, it's not usually on time, and there are a lot of last minute cancellations. Matter of fact, I think this past summer, someone came off the trek and found out that their train had been canceled, had to buy airline tickets at the last minute, and they called us for the flight back to Denver, for the bus back to Denver. So that's a huge expense, when you're buying day of airline tickets. So the train has its issues. There are also, derailments, and those things have happened over the years as well. If you fly into Denver, you need to allow an hour to get your bags, get from your gate, get off the plane, gather everyone, use the restroom, make your way out to the main terminal and wait for your bags. And that's at least an hour before you get onto your vehicle if you have a shuttle you're meeting or a charter bus. If you're going to rent, you now have to go out and get on the rental shuttle and go out to the rental lot. Okay, so you're adding at least another hour there. And then we're going to say that it's going to take about 6 hours to drive between Philmont and Denver. I know Google Maps says 4.5. You want to cut it that close? I don't, especially not around a holiday weekend, not on a Saturday or Sunday. Denver's doing lots of changes and new things, but that doesn't always mean it's good. Matter of fact, they just closed down the A Bridge, so they took away one place you could check in. So you need at least 2 hours for your security line and your check-in, and you need at least 6 hours for the drive time, and add another hour if you have to return a rental vehicle. Colorado Springs, and from my point of view, ground transportation, because it's further from Philmont, costs more. Colorado Springs costs a little less. You only need about 30 minutes to get your bags and to get out of the airport. If you're renting, you can just get the rental counter is right at baggage claim at Colorado Springs. So that's a big help. And it's not far out to walk to get to the cars. They're right out there in the parking lot. You do still want to leave extra time to return that vehicle, but you only need about an hour and a half check-in to get through security, check-in and security at Colorado Springs. We do allow about 4 hours driving between Colorado Springs and Philmont, and that usually includes stopping for a meal. And the Denver 6 hours included stopping for a meal as well. Albuquerque is similar to both of them. So 30 minutes to get your bags and leave the airport. If you're renting, you will need to board a shuttle and go out to the rental center. So you definitely want to leave extra time if you have to return a vehicle on the return. About an hour and a half for check-in and security. Sunday, Saturday, July 4th, maybe add a little more time. And we allow 4 hours for that drive as well. And that includes a lunch stop. So they all have good and bad. You just have to be aware of what your timing. No matter how you're getting to camp, you should plan to arrive in Colorado or New Mexico the day before your expedition. Okay, so 614, you want to arrive Colorado or New Mexico on the 13th, at least the 13th. You can come on the 12th, the 11th, the 10th, if it's in your budget, but at least one day in advance. You can choose to stay at an airport hotel and not take transportation to camp until the next day. If you just want to get in, maybe you get an 8 o'clock at night flight, and because it was super cheap, that's fine. You can choose to take transportation or whatever it is and get down to the little town of Cimarron. You can stay at the Hikers Cimarron Inn, and I do believe the St. James will be reopening. I think I heard maybe somebody is going to reopen that. So there's a couple places to stay to get down there in December.
Yes.
And there's
Very good.
there's
Yeah,
lots
that's
of
good.
beautiful there's lots of beautiful camping around Mount Wheeler also, and Eagle Nest Lake. If you want to get low altitude, lower
If you come in through Albuquerque and you want to come up around that way too, yes. Especially if you drive yourselves, yeah. If you have your own vehicle, if you have your own vehicle, you have a lot more leeway. But it's good and bad. You have good and bad. You're also leaving a vehicle sitting in base camp in that sweltering heat, which you can come out to dead batteries and flat tires. And you got to think of that too. You can check in at Philmont a day early. Now, don't just show up and say, hey, we're here a day early, because they don't like that. They're very organized there at Philmont, and they would like to know that you would like to come a day early. I think you do that through your portal. It requests to come in a day early, about 4 hours from Albuquerque Airport. And that would include like a bathroom stop, meal stop. If you're sightseeing, add a little bit more time. What I'm talking about is basically straight transportation, just getting there. But if you can check in at Philmont a day early, that does a few things, a few advantages. One, if you come or just come into the area early, you're going to acclimate. You might be able to get some sightseeing. You're less stressed than arriving so close to when you meet, like coming in the day of is almost unheard of. You might be able to tour the Villa Philmonte if you check into Philmont early, or maybe go to the Natural Scouting Museum, meet up with other scouts, spend some more money at the Tooth of Time Traders. Just don't buy everything, because I like to go spend my money there too. And if you're taking a charter bus, and I say this because I built this list from things we've heard in the past, don't take a charter bus and say we're going to spend the night in Raton, unless you absolutely have something you have to do in Raton, because you have to pay for the bus the next day also. So most of the time, if you get on a bus in Denver or Colorado Springs, it's a rate, it's going to take you all the way to Philmont, and that's a one-day rate. If you take that bus and you go to Raton, you now have to put that driver up and then pay for the next day's transportation. Doesn't make sense to stay in Raton unless you have something you want to do there, and then you release the driver and you work it out with Philmont that you get on the train, the bus that comes to pick up the folks from the train. I guess that's a doable thing. It just seems if you're already on the shuttle bus, go all the way to Philmont, or at least all the way to Cimarron. If you flights, you should take the earliest flight into Colorado or New Mexico. Departure flights, they say you should leave Philmont after breakfast. We have left at all hours of the day and night. I know they don't recommend that, but you want to make sure you arrive at base camp usually by 5 p.m. I think that's what we try to get everybody in there. 4:30 if you want to have dinner, and try to leave mid-afternoon. Get a flight that's mid-afternoon to early evening. Those seem to be the best times for transportation. Always be willing to share a bus. Sharing, at least in my world, in Leading the Way tours, if you share, you save. Okay. If you share a bus with another group, which best sharing happens from Philmont back to the airport, we will give you a refund. If you've already paid in full and we get a bus share, you get a refund, or you split the price. We handle all of that. We introduce you all through email. You can touch base with the other group beforehand, but sharing saves money. It's like buying at Costco or Sam's Club. If you can buy in bulk, so the big bus with the most seats, everybody pays less per seat. So sharing is always good. We only share with other scout groups. So it's not like we'd say we picked up another group and we're just dropping them off at the airport along the way. It's all scouts. We work with all scouts. Now they might be going to different airports, or I could say other scout camps, but really for the most part from Philmont, that's all we're doing from Philmont. And the other thing that people don't realize is You can arrive one way and go home another way. So you can arrive by train and go home by air, or vice versa. You can arrive into Denver because you really want that nonstop flight, and there's a lot of those into Denver for most groups. And you can go home through Albuquerque either to see different sites or because it's less expensive. So you don't have to be locked into just a round trip with one airport. So you can mix it up. And advantages of working with us. Again, we're going to look for that bus share, especially for the small groups. We're seeing in the last summer and this summer coming a lot of groups that are just 8 or 10 people. So we're going to look to find you a bus share and save money. I'm local in Colorado Springs, so I'm always here. My phone's on 24/7 if you need help. We even help groups that we just happen to run into at Garden of the Gods that get stranded. And we offer even if you pay in full, we do offer a refund. And the best thing to do with me, and I say check this with all of the companies you're working with. For me, if you were to call me today and you booked a bus, you pay me a deposit, $125 a day for a deposit, and you have up until 30 days prior to travel to cancel that and get a full refund. So if you want to make sure you have something secured while you're shopping around, that's the way to do it. Now, I say that I don't know what everybody's refund policy is, so that's why I say check that. But that's the way to do it. We sold out so many days last summer, and Philmont wasn't even at its busiest last summer, like it has been in other years. So get something booked. And if you find something better, and also once you're booked, that is more fodder. That's better when other groups contact us for us to say, hey, I got a group that'd like to share. So there's a lot of things to think about with transportation. Budget number one, I say budget number one, but before you book your airline tickets or before you book the train, call around and find out what the other things are going to cost. What's it going to cost to rent a van and drive yourselves? What's it going to cost for ground transportation if you go on just a shuttle where you have to wait for everyone to arrive? And what's it going to cost if you do private transportation, which could turn into private charter shared, before you book those airline tickets? So get those prices, because in addition to the price of Philmont, your airline or your mode of transportation to Colorado or New Mexico, plus your ground transportation while you're here, are probably your three largest components for the trip. And one last thing is, this is not the time, if you're flying, this is not the time to use your frequent flyer miles. You want everybody to travel on one record locator as best you can. You can get 10 people, get a group discount ticket through the group desk at almost all the airlines. Get everybody booked together, everybody on the same plane. Save those frequent flyer miles for something else, especially if you have transportation waiting for you at the other end. A bus driver can only stay on duty for so long before they have to go with just the 6 people that showed up and the other 2 or 4 because they took a different flight, get left behind. So again, make those phone calls, gather all the information before committing, and know your dates. That is the number one thing we see problems with, is new folks going to Philmont are just unsure of their dates, and that can be a costly mistake. So that's what I've got. If anybody has any questions, let me know.
Well, I would throw out one thing that living here in Kansas, you don't want to drive through western Oklahoma, western Kansas. That's a boring 4 hours across our states to get to New Mexico. And there's places in western Texas, you'll see a sign that says next gas station, 150 miles away. And that's true. That next gas station is 150 miles down the highway.
Yeah. The other thing is, while we all love our scouts, depending on how far you have to travel in a van with them, they are quickly going to be bored. I know they have their phones and but there'll be stretches of highway where there's no internet. And they'll be itching to get out of those seats. So at least on a bus or an airplane or the train, they can get up and walk around. So a lot of things to consider, and sometimes it's worth a little bit of extra money to do some of those other things, to do the airline and just think when you're flying home, you get home so much quicker back to your own bed and your own shower, and rather than having to drive yourselves or drive back to the airport. So there's a lot of complications with the highway out here as well. There's only one. Some areas have secondary roads. We just don't have that. That's why we build in plenty of time for your travel. When people say, oh, it's 4.5 hours. Yeah, Google Maps, maybe you on your motorcycle, but not if someone needs to eat, if someone needs a bathroom. The buses just don't go up the Raton Pass at the speed of, just a 4-passenger vehicle. So I will say in 30 years, I've never had anyone miss a flight. It just doesn't happen. We've been close. We've had flat tires. But we've been close, but we have never missed a flight, ever. Knock on wood. So
I don't know if you mentioned it, but you have something on the website about other things like turning it into a tour, not just the transportation. Do you want to speak to any of those additional options?
Sure. If you have more time or more money, because obviously staying overnight will cost more money, you can add. So if you want to come in 1 or 2 nights, and I say that because you don't really need more than that, 1 or 2 nights in advance. You come in 1 night in advance and we pick you up at the airport. We're probably going to do a tour of the Air Force Academy, Garden of the Gods, maybe one other thing, maybe even do a hike at Garden of the Gods. And that would be a 1-night package. We'll overnight at a hotel here in Colorado Springs. We'll feed you all along the way, get you up in the morning, get you down to Philmont, and then bring you back. So our package will include all of that. It'll be a A1 price, kind of thing. Maybe just have to add some lunches. We usually don't include lunches just because it depends on what time people arrive. If you have an extra day to spend, you can do things like the COG train to the top of Pikes Peak, or maybe go whitewater rafting down the Arkansas River. You come in through Albuquerque, you can do some whitewater rafting on the Rio Grande, or you can go out to some sites in Albuquerque. There's some nice museums. There's the petroglyphs. You can go out through Angel Fire and Taos. So there's definitely some things to see through arriving through all the different airports. And just know that those things add money to your trip.
A lot of people are looking for altitude acclimation time. So
yes.
So
that really helps to come in a day or 2 in advance, especially if you're coming from someplace like sea level. The good thing is if you have to really kind of have to arrive 1 day in advance. You cannot get to Philmont for let's say we were talking about that 614 expedition. If you fly into any airport or come by train, you can't arrive at Philmont before lunch. There's no flights or a train that arrives to allow you to get there before lunch. So you'd already be behind. Your goal is to get to base camp before lunch, get checked in, meet your ranger, stow your gear, get some lunch, and then all those things that have to happen on day 1 so you can be ready for a trail bus the next morning. So the good thing is that you do spend the night at base camp, so there's a little extra acclimation there. So if you come in on the 13th, you also have the night of the 14th for acclimation. So there's a little bit, but if you're really concerned about it, try to come a few days in advance. Just know that each day you add in advance does add money. If you're a small group, we usually recommend that you rent a van and do some sightseeing on your own. Park that van or return that van and let us drive you to and from the airport to Philmont. Most people rent through the airport and back because, again, you don't want to be stressed getting to Philmont or having to drive after you've done that trek. So, but yeah, definitely seeing some sights. And I say that's secondary because even though I am a tour operator and that's what I love to do, getting to Philmont is the main goal. And right now with prices, the economy the way it is, we try to offer as cost-effective transportation as we can. We love it when people can add some extra stuff to their tour, but we understand that it's not always doable.
And for those worried about acclimation, just throwing out there, whether you fly into Denver or Colorado Springs, that highway running all the way down to Cimarron, you're sitting at about 8,000 feet, even sitting on a bus or van. Mm-hmm. And so for a lot of people coming from lower elevation, you're sitting at base camp level or slightly higher than base camp level that entire drive down. I'm just glad that she didn't offer Manitou incline and stairs as part of her
I can't do that,
tour
so I'm not.
package.
Some crazy people might want to. I'll answer Brian. Yes, you do get to choose your add-ons. We, of course, work with certain outfitters and certain things within the area. Like we have a particular rafting company we work with. You can choose your add-ons. We usually let you know what those prices are, so you can choose some of those things based on your budget. Also, we try to steer you within travel time. So we don't want you just running all over, wasting time just traveling. We try to do things in kind of an order, a stepping stone kind of order. Usually day one, Colorado Springs and Denver, we try to do things that don't cost money. That's why I say Air Force Academy and Garden of the Gods, because a lot of the vendors will not refund if you are late or if your flight was to get canceled or something. You would be out that money for, let's say, rafting. We would lose the rafting money. But you wouldn't usually raft on day one. But Cog Railway, we've had groups do that on day one, which is kind of dangerous with all that extra altitude. But groups have done it. But you'd lose your money if your flight was late. So we try not to do costing activities on day one. We do things like the hike around Air Force Academy and hike at Garden of the Gods, weather permitting. I was just going to say something before that, and I lost my train of thought. But okay,
one other thing that I've heard other people say about doing add-ons before a Philmont trek, especially things like whitewater rafting, is the risk of not that we would hope it happens, but injury.
Mm-hmm.
It would really suck to get hurt before you go on your trek.
Right. And to that, I've had groups that say they want to do it after. And most people have come back to me and said, yeah, no, after the trek, we want to go home.
Yeah.
So that being said, there is such a thing as biking on Pikes Peak. We highly don't recommend that. I don't even put that as an option. If someone was to ask me about it, I can hook you up with those people, but I don't recommend that. That's seriously very dangerous. Hiking the incline, again, that's an awful lot of altitude. And we've had a group here for, during COVID, actually, we had a group come out. No, I take it back. During 2018, during the fire, we had a group actually come out and spend 4 or 5 days. And on their 5th day, they started hiking up Pikes Peak. And we had a young man not make it. I had to bring him down. And then 2 days later, when they made it to the top, I drove up to meet them, and another young man was sick, and we had to get him down. So the super strenuous activities before Philmont, that's every group, every troop, every council has their own take on it. We have some groups that come out and do the pterodactyl at Cave of the Winds. If you've never seen that, you definitely want to look that up. But it's this big giant swing out over the canyon. And other troops have told me, absolutely not, that's too dangerous, we won't do it. It's not dangerous. I mean, I think it's pretty secure, but it's a riskier thing. And some groups say yes, and some groups say no. And my goal is to get you to Philmont safely and as cost effectively as possible. If we can add activities, we would love to. One other thing I can add about that is some folks would like to add activities when they arrive in Denver and on the way to Philmont, but that's not possible. That's 10 hours for the driver that day. And that's all he gets or she gets. While you may only be on the bus for 6 hours, that driver still has to return. So coming in through Denver, if you would like to do sightseeing, you do have to spend that extra day. If you come to Colorado Springs, we might be able to sneak in an Air Force Academy or a Garden of the Gods. That's usually doable. And there are some airlines and few locations around the country that are now doing nonstops to Colorado Springs. And my ground transportation is less expensive from Colorado Springs. So that's another thing I do point out to folks, that you should check Colorado Springs. Don't just assume Denver is your only nonstop option.
Yeah. All right, let me show everyone. You guys can keep talking. I'm just going to show you what it's like to ride on the bus. This is short, by the way.
Oh, there's me.
So
Yeah,
so
that is you.
so when you run these buses down to Philmont, do you bring them back empty or do you stay overnight?
It
And
depends
grab-
on the scenario. Every day's scenario is different.
Okay.
So
So you try to
there's a
maximize
reason
your loaded miles.
we try to be live in both directions. With the traffic and with the construction, it's been very hard to do a down and back with groups going back to Denver. Like to go from Colorado Springs to Philmont, Philmont to Denver. Denver, the driver has to come back to Colorado Springs. That will push them over 10 hours. So it's not been very doable, although we can sometimes get a secondary driver and do it for a little extra money. But if it's a Colorado Springs round trip, we do that. If we see there's a morning pickup the next day, we will usually overnight that driver in Raton, or maybe if we can get him a spot in Cimarron, we'll do that because we're trying to save on the fuel and, that kind of thing. So whenever we can do that, I work very closely with Ramblin' Express dispatchers, trying to figure that out wherever we can save and not have dead miles whenever possible. So.
All right. That was amazing information. What I'm likely to do is, in addition to having this go up in podcast form and as the full discussion, I'll probably just clip that transportation section out and make it a separate video for people to watch as well. So,
and I can send you the transcript, Jeff, if you want. For the most part, what I've said is in here. So,
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And thanks, Brian, for asking a few questions out there in the chat. I think this is going to be super helpful. And especially, I think the part that people don't know what they don't know. And if you've never done this, you don't know some of the things that you said, like if your flight's canceled, you lose your money for some of those activities, or things that may be too dangerous. So it's great to have that inside information. We really appreciate that. And with that, let's see, why don't we change gears and let's talk about Philmont Gear and gifting. And Christine, you are welcome to stay with us, or you can bow out. That is completely up to you. So Nathan, I'm going to give you the spotlight now. And, we've talked at length about Philmont and gear. So I think that what's going to help people is if first you help them understand what you do for a living, so they know where you're coming from and why you're here to talk to them. And then, maybe hit on some of those, the things that we kind of talked about before, gear to get,
absolutely.
gear not to get, how to gift, because we're getting to that season, right? People want to buy, they got a kid going to Philmont, they're going to Philmont, they want to ask for things. How do you do that to get the right stuff, not get the wrong stuff? There's so many different directions we could go on this. So if you would kind of lead the discussion on that, we'll all pop in with questions and hopefully get some discussion as well.
Sure. And so, I grew up in scouting. I did Philmont in '98. I actually did a backpack trip last summer with my scouts in Colorado. Then we dropped down to Wheeler Peak and did some great backpacking there. And we just swung in through base camp and came back home. So talking with you, Jeff, I have to be a little bit careful that I'm an ultralighter. And so one of the big differences here is personally, I'll go out for a 5-day, 6-day trek and I'm carrying a 38-liter pack. But I'm carrying ultralight gear and it's expensive. The smaller, the lighter it is, the more expensive it is. And it's really dangerous. Dangerous is probably the wrong word. It's really easy if you're chasing grams, you're chasing ounces, you're chasing sleeping pads and bags that are the size of your Nalgene bottle. Yeah. You can drop $5,000-$6,000 and you didn't even realize how fast you did that. So really understanding that when we're going to Philmont, and I mean this as nicely as an outdoor program chair in my council, as someone who enjoys taking scouts out, scout gear is big. Mm-hmm. And so we're chasing those 65, 75, 80-liter packs. it's not because you can't do it smaller and lighter. We're doing it so that you're not dropping $5,000-$6,000. And there's no need unless you really enjoy backpacking and you plan on doing one of the big trails or Wind River Range to spend that type of money for. Maybe this is the first time your scouts ever backpacked more than a Friday, Saturday, Sunday trip. So let's really focus on the big things. First big thing, presents for backpacking. When we talk about the big things, the backpack, the sleeping bag, the shoes, they're not surprises. These are very personal things. And everybody up here on the screen could tell you the shoe that they love to backpack in. The boots. Oh, you don't want boots. You want hiking shoes. Oh, you don't want that one. You want this other brand. It doesn't matter what we like. What matters is what works for you. Because I sent Jeff a set of shoes for his Philmont Trek this year that he wanted to try. I don't wear. I personally like a whole nother brand because I got big wide feet. And so I like something a little different. So the big ones we're looking at is your backpack. Now, biggest thing that I see that people screw up on backpacks is they start looking at the sizes of the bag. And so I'm not talking about whether it's a 65 or a 75 or 85 liter bag. That's how much stuff you can put into it. I'm talking about when it says S, M, L, XL. We think of those as small, medium, large. They're not. That's short, medium, long, extra long. And that has to do with the size, how many inches between your shoulders and your hip. And the last thing we want to do is some little scrawny kid that's 6 foot tall and looks like a beanpole is we get them a small backpack because they're petite, when really they need a long torso backpack to actually be enjoyable on the trail. And so finding someone that's reputable, someone that knows what they're doing, being in the outdoor business, I would tell you that every shop says that they fit backpacks, but not everybody knows what they're doing when they're fitting backpacks as far as salespeople. Kind of like going to Home Depot when you want to build a deck and the guy's just telling you hammers on aisle 13, lumber on 1. He's never built a deck in his life. He just works there. Those people are out in the outdoor industry. I hate to say it, but they work in shops. Finding somebody that knows. Finding that backpacking merit badge counselor that can show the kids how to fit a backpack. That your shoulder straps want to roll around your shoulders. You want to have the waist belt around your pelvis. I generally like about 60% of my weight on my pelvis, 40% on my shoulders. Sternum straps, I would tell you, really don't matter. Sternum straps for me just depends on how far across my shoulder I walk my pads throughout the day so I don't get rubbed raw in one spot for a multi-day, week-long trek. And then there's these little tabs on the top called load lifters. Scouts love to screw with their load lifters. The purpose of the load lifter is to match the frame of the backpack with the frame of your spine. And so I'm pulling on those load lifters until the backpack is straight up and down on my spine or matching the curvature of my spine. And you leave them alone. Don't let those scouts be screwing with their load lifters. Otherwise, the backpack's going to be in their neck or it's going to be pulling them backwards. Little things like that.
Sure.
So backpacks, what brand's best? Again, everybody has their favorite. Gregory, Osprey. You'll have some adults out there that may be chasing a Hyperlite. I'm trying to think of what it is. Mariposa. Oh, well, it's another ultralight brand that I really like. I just slipping right now. Gossamer Gear. That's what it is, Gossamer Gear. If you're an adult, I have no problem selling you a Gossamer Gear. You're a 14, 17-year-old kid that's just going to sling that backpack around. I'm not going to sell you a Gossamer Gear because it's going to get hung up on a rock and scratched up, tore up. Personally, I sell a lot of Osprey to scouts because I know scouts they're kids. They're a little abusive with their backpacks, and Osprey has a lifetime warranty on it.
Yeah.
So those are just some things that I look for when I'm trying to fit somebody is Make sure we have the right torso length set up for them. Make sure that shoulder pads rolling across the shoulder, hip belts are on the pelvis. And I don't like to shop. I'm the type that would walk into a store, find the 3 jeans that I know that fit, buy them, and walk out before anybody ever talks to me. If you're buying a backpack for Philmont, try on 6, 7 backpacks and figure out what they feel like. And try them on with weight. See if the shop has 15, 20, 25 pounds that you can drop inside, because backpacks weigh different, or they fit differently when they're fully empty versus have a little bit of weight in them. Mm-hmm. If you're someone who really enjoys backpacking, this is something you enjoy. Osprey, not really pushing them, just that they have another feature on their more expensive bags called anti-gravity. It gives a little bit of a suspension system. So especially for my older leaders, you don't want that backpack just beating into you every time you step over a log or a rock. That anti-gravity system, you really don't understand what you're missing until you've been wearing one for a while and you go back to a regular backpack. Yeah. So again, that Philmont size, 65, 75, 85. I carry up to 65 in the store and website. I'm not going to tell you to buy from me. Just buy a quality one, know what you're looking for. You're going to be looking at that 65, 75, 85 range. Yeah. Does anybody have any other input on backpacks?
Yeah, I'm similar, that I like to carry as small and as little as possible. And I would love to be able to get away with something smaller. I've done the last few treks with a 60 or the last one with a 58 liter. And I have plenty of room, but I carry small gear. So every week it seems like someone posts in our group about what size pack, and you'll hear people say, well, I took an 85 and I needed all the room, and other people saying, well, I could take a 45, and it all comes down to the size of the gear in the pack. So when we're talking to what I hope part of the audience for this discussion are parents who are looking to outfit their kid, like how do they determine what size pack that they need to get that kid?
So let me pick on scouts, being an avid scouter here, like most people probably are. Scouts generally don't have the smallest, lightest weight stuff. When I am out backpacking, my trail clothes can wad up to the size of, I can put about 2 days worth of clothes into the size of an Nalgene water bottle, because I am running really ultralight, fast drying clothing. I'll tell you, the pants cost $150 for a set of pants for each one of them. The shirts are $100 shirts. The jacket is a $300 jacket that I am taking personally. I don't sell those to scouts. I don't even try to push them to scouts. Your scouts that are wearing a little heavier, thicker clothing, because that's what they have. They're wearing those cargo shorts. They're wearing just bulkier clothing. It's going to take up more room. My $600 quilt that folds up, sub 1 pound, and again, smaller than my sleeping pad, fits in nice. Most scouts running a quality 35-degree bag, it's the size of a small watermelon. Mm-hmm. It just takes more room. And again, we can go to Philmont, quite honestly, with probably spending around $600-700 for a full kit, if we're taking advantage of those deals, taking advantage of the sales coming up, and we're being smart at what we're looking for. Just that, the bigger gear, and by God, that Philmont tent, it is not nearly as small as the tent that I go out with on regular trips. Yeah. My bear bag is smaller than the Philmont bear bag and rope that Philmont hands out. So when we think about, not only is it my personal gear, I should only be filling up my bag probably 60% with my personal gear, maybe 50%, because you still have all the crew gear, that big tent, that pot. We can disagree about the pot all day long.
Jeff and I can go on for an hour about that.
Yeah. All right. So
we didn't take the pot with us. We just left it there.
The food. I mean, these are all things that are going to take a lot of room. So when we're talking about how much room should my personal stuff take, personally, I should be taking about 50%, no more than 60% inside my bag of my stuff for everything that I need. Now, the other one that I hope nobody else has to deal with, but I had to deal with on my trek, was we had an injury. And when you have to double bag, carrying a backpack on your back and a backpack on your front, someone else is double bagging, and two people are carrying an injured person off the trail, these things really start to matter.
Yeah.
So quality bags, make sure your straps are set right. Don't fill up more than 50% with your personal stuff. Make sure your bag's big enough that 50% you have room. I get it. You can put all of your stuff in a 38, 40-liter bag, but you're not helping the team. You're not helping the crew with that. And
As
so,
a person, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go.
I was going to say, as a person who's packed many a backpack from a plane to a bus and from a bus to Philmont, I can tell you that people are arriving with their backpacks packed to the max. And then they still have a carry-on. So I don't know, and the carry-on supposed to be their stuff for while they're in town. I don't know how they put anything else in those packs because they are packed when they arrive.
Yeah.
So
Bursting when they arrive.
Dragging stuff out. That's what you have to do.
Well, and so another one, flying with a backpack. A lot of companies build flying zippered bags for your backpack. I hate flying with backpacks. Osprey, I know, makes one because I have one. It's like a big canvas bag. You throw your backpack in it, you zip it up, and that way when your backpack's on those conveyor belts and it's going down through the basement of Philmont, or not Philmont, the basement of the airport, it doesn't get ripped up. You don't rip a strap out. Get an actual flying bag and zip your backpack up in it.
Highly recommend that. Highly recommend. We have seen bags that are not packed in some sort of a duffel or something, and they come with their straps ripped off, zippers are open, stuff is missing. Definitely need to bag it up. Even if it's, I hate to say this, even if it's a 50-gallon contractor plastic bag with duct tape, just remember to bring one to get home with. They need to be bagged, or you could lose your straps.
This group that sells those or arranges it, right, Darrel? Yeah.
But
our troop made their own bags relatively inexpensively. We're talking like dollars per bag,
Yeah.
And
I've
it's
seen
just got to function and do the job. But
absolutely,
yeah, flying, don't just throw your backpack on there loose and expect it to all come to Denver or Albuquerque in one piece.
Same thing for train, because they put your bags go into a luggage compartment on the train. You should bag them up there too.
so
They pack much nicer too on the bus or in a van or anything if they're smooth outside, as opposed to having your hiking poles and your camp shoes and your water bottles all dangling off of them.
So after the big one of the backpack, sleeping bags are an easy spot. You can go crazy. When I grew up in scouting, even when I grew up in my first experiences of ultralighting, sleeping bags were generally rated to their survivability rating. This is where you saw bags that you're cold at 30 degrees in a 0-degree bag. There's a lot of brands now, Big Agnes, Nemo, North Face, Rab, that they're all switching to comfort rated. So when a sleeping bag says 35 degrees, for the average person, you should be able to hop in that bag in gym shorts and be comfortable at 35 degrees. So understanding your bag. Is your bag survivability rated or is your bag comfort rated? Don't bring more bag than what you need. I think Philmont recommends a 30-degree bag for some of those nights where it might get a little cold. Again, as an ultralighter, I don't mind taking a slightly warmer bag and understand there might be one night I'm going to bed in my thermals that I brought. But I'd rather do that and not carry an extra 2 pounds and a small watermelon in my bag. I can deal with one night of a little miserable, one night of sleeping in my thermals and my hoodie versus carrying a watermelon extra 2 pounds the entire trek. Not telling you what to do. Everyone's a little different. If you want to carry the watermelon, carry the watermelon. But look at what your bag is. Is your bag comfort rated? Is your bag survivability rated? Do you sleep a little warm? Do you sleep a little cold? I'm over 6'6". I don't fit in a regular size bag. So make sure you have a bag that's cut for you. Don't put your little 5 foot tall Scout in a long sleeping bag that they can fit 2 of them in. And don't take a sleeping bag that only comes up to your armpit. Make sure you have the right bag for where you're going. I don't know how many people are trying quilts at Philmont. I would.
Yes.
I love my quilt. I always try to encourage people to come to the dark side of backpacking and come enjoy quilt camping.
Yeah.
But I will also caution them that if you're thinking about trying quilts, the first learning curve is probably about 45 degrees, where you're sleeping in a stocking cap, you're sleeping in a hoodie or your jacket, because the quilt only comes up to your collarbones. It's not going to come up over your head like a sleeping bag does. And you can be snug as a bug, warm as can be. You take one wrong turn in that quilt and cold air comes in at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know it, and you are re-warming up all the air under that quilt. So again, I don't want to get in and try to force everyone towards the dark side. Generally, quilts are more expensive than sleeping bags. They have their benefit, but they also have a learning curve with them as well. Probably the second biggest or third biggest one after we do backpack and sleeping gear, shoes. I'm sure we could have a whole hour-long conversation. Hiking boots, shoes, trail hikers, low tops, high tops, waterproof or not waterproof.
It could go days.
Yeah, we've had whole discussions on this channel about that, and
Well,
discussions in the email. So
and I looked up when I was down there at the ranch, and I was looking at the old 1960s packing list. The official BSA logging boots was the recommended footwear for Philmont.
Right.
I have done when I did Philmont, it was leather hiking boots because that was all the rage of the 90s. I think I sent Jeff some really fancy dial operated low top backpackers.
Yeah.
I backpack in low top Salewa shoes. They're out of Italy. I'm not going to say that they're the best for everybody. Actually, I think I may have given a set of Salewas to somebody that you knew, Jeff.
Yes. And I got some feedback on those. Today I was asking, hey, I heard a couple things. And one was no break-in, super light, very comfortable, good traction for normal summer trek season use. But then they have been continued to be used for some off-season stuff. And the big feedback there was all the same stuff, but they've gotten waterlogged many, many times, and they feel okay when they're wet and they dry out really quickly. So, yeah,
So,
really, really cool stuff there with those.
and so I have a couple different sets of shoes myself. I like the Salewas, and it's kind of a new brand that I just got into this year, but they have really soft rubber. The rubber is really, really tacky, really sticky. You're not going to slide down rocks. You're going to stick to them pretty good.
Yeah.
But then the downside of it is they wear down really fast. They don't take the mileage like a hard Vibram sole does. But also, if you've ever been on one of those rocky slabs where you just want to slide down it, you don't. You get one of those harder soles on your Keens, on your Ultras, I'm blanking, just a lot of other ones with that Vibram sole. Merrill. The Vibrams, they hold up to mileage. It's a hard rubber, but that hard rubber isn't quite as sticky sometimes, which means it sloughs off mud a little better off the shoe, off the sole, but also means that you can slide down some things and slide down some rocks when you want to. And so what's right for you? If you're a troop that's out there doing a lot of training hikes, doing a lot of mileage, especially on concrete and asphalt, you probably are going to lean towards a harder sole so that way you get your shoes broke in, ready to go. I personally don't like waterproof shoes unless it's cold out. I want to get wet and get the water out of my boots or out of my shoe as fast as possible. It's just a personal choice. Now, I highly push wool socks on anybody. I don't care, darn tough, smart wool, whatever your local favorite is. Gingies, the wool toe socks are great if you get blisters in between your toes. But wool, when you're sharing tents, wool socks help keep your feet from smelling so bad. And regardless of anything else, blister protection or anything else, good God, when you want to go to bed at night and your buddy takes off their boots and you can't sleep, wool socks are great. They help take care of those issues. And that's really the big three. Your fourth one, lightweight clothing, super fast drying. I'm probably going to be a little wrong here. I kind of went and spent a couple of years with Uncle Sam. I learned the whole phrase of pack light, freeze at night. There's nothing wrong with waking up in the morning and being a little chilly. Pack up, hike out a couple miles, and then cook breakfast and enjoy a hot cup of coffee. Just get the blood going. That I don't take a lot of warm weather gear. I take a jacket, and then I use my rain gear as my thermal layer. And so that's how I do it. I know other people, they love their rain gear, but as an ultralighter, something I would try to push as a backpacking merit badge counselor, how does everything have more than one purpose? And so I don't need to carry a lot of clothes if I have my lightweight, quick drying base layers. I have my super lightweight, quick drying trail clothes, one set of thermals, my rain gear. I'm good down to 30 degrees with just that set without getting into a lot of winter gear. So where do you find it? There's going to be a lot of sales. I think I just saw a thing from REI, 60% off on some items. Usually that's last year, 2 years old models or REI branded stuff. You can find some quality stuff. eBay, Amazon. Do your research. Know who you're buying from. Rendezvous has an eBay page if you find us. We got some stuff out there. I might work with you if you message me and tell me that you saw us on Philmont Trek Talk. Buy from quality brands. If you never heard of the brand, it might be a good brand. It might not be a good brand. Do a little research. So especially if it's one of your first times. I didn't build out that ultralight or that intermediate kit very well yet, Jeff. But that starter kit, we were working on some of those things. I think we had down to $450 is what a backpack, a 35-degree bag. And the whole concept with this one was a crossover kit that I got tired in my local council how many people are camping out of a trailer and burning wood and burning their dinner, and they call that camping. But for $450, what do you need minus clothes and a toothbrush and little Johnny, little Susie can go backpacking? Let's just go. I'm a little low on Rook backpacks right now, so don't get too crazy on that button. But look at your main companies, your reputable companies. What are those companies that have lifetime warranties? Osprey, Outdoor Research, Patagonia, especially with the holiday season coming up. Take advantage of deals. Grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, buy that little higher quality luxury item.
Guilty.
But you don't need a whole lot of stuff to be successful backpacking.
Well, I think that's the big thing that a lot of people get excited and they just want to go out and spend a lot of money and buy a bunch of stuff. I'm like, the cheapest stuff you could get for backpacking is the stuff you don't even get. Like, take what you need. Don't pack your fears. Pack what you need, and you don't even have to buy some of that stuff. Which I'm sorry I said that to the guy who owns an outdoor store. I'm not trying to undercut you here, but
No, absolutely. I am the worst salesperson. I'll tell you the pros and cons. When I teach backpacking classes, my mantra is backpacking is the art of being comfortably uncomfortable. What's the least amount you have to carry And then what's that one or two luxury items that take a miserable day and make them tolerable? That's all you take.
Like a
You don't
chair.
need a whole lot of extras. Yeah, maybe it's a chair for you. My son has a deck of cards. Maybe somebody else, it's a book. Good God, if you're that person that's backpacking a guitar up there, good for you. But what's just that one luxury item that makes it all worth it? Other than that, it's really how light, how fast can you go? Because if you can wake up in the morning, break down camp, get your next camp quickly, easily, have a lot of energy, that's more time for program. And my belief is Philmont truly is a program camp. It's about the program. You just hike to get to your next program. It's not a Appalachian Trail. It's not a Wind River Range backpack expedition. Sorry if I hurt anybody's feelings.
That's okay. So
That's what it is.
if someone, so we've got your URL up here. We're looking through your website. You've done a fantastic job of giving great information without a lot of self-promotion. So I'll go ahead and do that part for you. Go check out the website.
Message us on
if people want
Facebook,
some advice-
Instagram.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
if a
so-
parent's watching this and they're like, well, okay, I heard you, but I don't know enough to interpret everything. Can they call, like, or will you or someone else like hold their hand a little bit and help them understand what to get?
Message out on, I got a Facebook, I got an Instagram, Rendezvous Adventure Outfitters. Message us there. That way I actually get it to my phone and I see it. I'll take care of you. I'm more than happy to help you with what I can. And even if I'm not the best one for you, I'll try to steer you in the right direction.
Cool. All right. Awesome. So any questions or comments from our panelists here? I know I do apologize. We've gone over our time a little bit. So thank you everyone for sticking around. All right. Philmont.
This video, Philmont or Bust, I bought it years ago at Truth or Time Traders. They don't have it anymore, but it has a 1963 snippet and a 1973 snippet. And if you watch that, you will know that Philmont is exactly the same now. It's just that your gear costs more. Everybody was doing it in the 60s, but with the big heavy backpacks, you have more advantage now because you can get lighter weight gear. But for the first timer, 14-year-old coming for the first time, and you don't even know if he'll ever do this again, maybe you can find a gear exchange. Maybe somebody in the family's got something they can use. I do agree that the boots, the backpack, and the sleeping bag are three major things that, everything else maybe you could, borrow or whatever. Buy a good pair of boots, get a good backpack for sure. But if they watch this video, or there's a Mutual of Omaha video I think you can find on YouTube, you'll see that it's about the program. It's about getting from point A to point B, and everybody will make their own way. And you want to be comfortable. A good pair of shoes, I think, is your number one thing, my opinion.
Cool. Something no one mentioned. I don't recommend this unless you really need to. If you need to, then this could be your best option, because I know that I sent one of my kids with a backpack this summer, who promptly, before hitting the backcountry said, "Oh, by the way, I got a rental pack from Philmont. Like, I didn't take the pack that you sent me with." And it's like, oh, okay, but they have really good packs. I prefer to have a pack that I can wear for a while on shakedown hikes and know it's going to fit me right, and it isn't going to rub in weird places once I get on the trail. But if budget doesn't allow, or you lose your stuff on the way there, they do have rental packs there that you can. I don't even know what the fee is. It's a very nominal fee, and they're good. They're Osprey packs.
And
It's 30.
It's like 25, 30 bucks. It's cheap.
And the most important thing is wear your boots on the airplane. If you went to all that trouble to break in your boots, wear them on the airplane, because we can replace a pack and everything else in that pack if it gets lost. But we can't break in a good pair of boots for you. So wear those on the airplane.
That's very good.
So with
Very good.
With that, Jeff, you talk about rubbing in the wrong spots. Probably one of the oddest places we've seen packs rub you wrong is under your arms or on the side of your triceps and biceps, where you don't think about it, but just swinging your arms rubs on something. And that's why I really want to try to press upon people. Just because you like the first one, try on every pack that store has.
Yeah.
Find the one that's actually best for you. And nothing against that unit. I've heard horror stories about it, and I'm sure Philmont loves it, that some unit shows up with nothing, gets off the airplane, walks into the Tooth of Time, and buys an entire kit and ready to go roll.
Yeah.
I saw people do that in the military when they go to different schools. They just show up and buy everything at base. They're not enjoying it for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And Philmont's only 2 weeks long. So enjoy those shakedowns, enjoy those little hikes. And for the younger ones watching, if you're in a troop like mine that was all about high adventure, those training walks aren't for you. Those training walks are for the parents that have been sitting at a desk for the last 15 years. And so enjoy them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks everyone. Darrel, thank you for joining us. I know you had, what is a district committee meeting or something, serving scouting, and then rushing back to get on camera and serve scouting again. So we appreciate you. We talked about the hut to hut. We talked about, I can't remember what else we talked about. Any other timely things? I know you're typically our agenda person for, time of year, anything else that a crew should be thinking about right now, aside from watching the official gear discussion tomorrow on the Philmont page? You're unusually talkative this evening, Darrel. All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to go ahead and shut it down. Thanks so much to everyone on the panel. Christine, Nate, really appreciate you joining us. To all the regular panelists, thank you. Norm and Brian, thanks for your questions. Feel free to ask any other questions in the Philmont Trek Talk group on Facebook. I don't think I dropped that link in here. If anyone happens to find this and isn't aware of the group, there is the link, and it is in the chat as well. So until next time, we will, because we are supposed to do this the second Tuesday of the month. The last couple months, I've had some personal conflicts and things that have, as well as some time mismanagement potentially, that have made me, bump it an extra week. We're going to be on the second Tuesday of the month, like it says down here at the bottom, for next month. So the second Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, on the Camping Gear Report YouTube channel, because Facebook still hasn't fixed our ability to broadcast in multiple places to a group. Until next time, I think we're done. Is anybody not ready?
Nope, that's it. Thanks for having me.
Bye, John.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a good night.